Okay, Chair Nicole, I will go ahead and do roll call to convene the Policy and Budget Subcommittee meeting. So Nicole Green,
Aye.
I didn't hear you, but I know you said you.
Oh,
were here.
aye. Can you hear me?
Yes. Now.
Okay, sorry.
Ozzy Carter
Present, aye.
and Lila Blanchard.
Here.
All board members are present. We have a quorum.
So thank you, everyone. I want to welcome you today to our Policy and Budget Subcommittee meeting. Did we already post the agenda, Monique? right.
Yes, I will post it again and I'll share my screen.
Okay.
Now, do you see the agenda?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let me go ahead and share, post the agenda again. Okay, so you should have access to it now.
So we'll go ahead and get started. We'll first start with our welcomes, introductions, and announcements. So I'll go ahead and start off first. I am Nicole Green. I'm Chair of the Policy and Budget Subcommittee.
Ozzy Carter. Ozzy, you're on mute.
Yes, I'm Ozzy Carter's avatar. We need some laughter here. I said she's under the table, but we're both here.
And Lila.
I'm also here. Oh, both,
Awesome.
yeah. Yeah, and I'm
Okay.
Lila, still, yeah.
And then we also have Crawford Carpenter present.
And
I'll introduce myself real quick.
okay.
So I'm Monique Tate with the Office of Reentry and Justice. And we have Crawford Carpenter present as well.
Yes, hello. I'm sorry.
Okay.
This is
This is gonna be a great meeting.
Yeah,
I know.
Crawford, you have
yes.
you have a new virtual painting behind you.
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah. I thought I'd change up for a minute or two.
It's
It's
nice.
nice.
Yeah, that's another one of my wife's artworks.
Oh, beautiful.
She's very
Beautiful.
talented.
Yes, she is.
Well, I really instruct her on the art stuff, so I don't know.
You
how-
want to take credit for it, Crawford?
Oh, let me cut this out. Hey, this
I
is
bet you she doesn't know that.
Yes.
This is recorded, so we're going to
Yeah,
tell her
I
to play
know.
this back.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm interrupting your meeting.
I'm so sorry. Okay, so we're going to move to any announcements.
It's Lila.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely a different dynamic when it's just us from ORJ staff and from folks who are on the CAP board. So my announcement is still come on to Stepping Stones this Friday. You can log in, you can check it out, you can show up for part of it. It starts at 9 and it ends at 10:15. And this will be the time that we celebrate participants who are completing our foundations workshops across 3 different sites. And all 3 of them are funded by AB 109 as well. So the Richmond site that I'm at, as well as the Antioch site, which Michelle Stewart leads up, and then the Concord site, which Ron Thomas is the site manager for. So I'll put the link in the chat, and we're still hiring, but I'm not going to put the link in there. But please do share widely. It's tricky to fill nonprofit financial coaching roles. And thank you all so much.
Thank you. Any other announcements before we move on? No, moving on. Is there any public comment? We don't have anybody else here but Crawford, so it's okay for me to go ahead and move on, Monique, from that one, since there's no.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Is this the public comment, sorry, that's not on the jurisdiction of the agenda? Is that the public comment? you
Yes,
asked for?
public comment, any
Okay.
item.
Okay, so yeah, if there isn't any, we can move on.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on to item number 3, which is the approval of the minutes from our October 28th CAB meeting, CAB Policy and Budget meeting. So let's go ahead and take a second to look at those if you haven't already looked at it. Starting on page 4.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion for the approval of the of the October 28th CAB Policy and Budget Subcommittee meeting.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ozzy. Do I have a second?
This is Lila and I'll second it.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Ozzy and a second by Lila.
Public
Mhm.
comments?
Oh, any public comments? I'm like, do we need to vote? There's no public, so.
Okay, so it looks like there is no public comment. So I'll go ahead and do the vote, call the vote.
Okay.
So Nicole Green,
Aye.
Ozzy Carter,
Aye.
and Lila Blanchard.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to number 4, discussion of the AB 109 budget request for November CCP budget workshop. That starts on page 7. Of this. So just thinking back from, I know Caprice, Lord, Patrice is coming, but just thinking back on our, try to give a brief recap the best way I can, Monique.
Good,
So,
good. Yeah.
So this, I've learned from watching her. So this document just kind of gives an idea of the total budget amount at the bottom for our upcoming year. So it shows in total difference from 2023 to 2022, excuse me, 2023 and 24 requests. I'm looking for that one part she put on there, I believe with the 5% COLA that we're requesting, but it gives the total amount for the budget proposal on here. Is there any questions about this section at all? Kind of self-explanatory, and I know we've talked about it. Moving on, this section here breaks down the narrative in reference to the budget proposal. I know we reviewed this on our last meeting, but since then, is there any questions about this area that as a committee we want to discuss? I'll take quiet as oh, okay. Lila, I see you. Go ahead. Wait. We have Lila. I'm like, I hear quietness. I'm gonna take quiet.
My regular hand was faster than me getting to the reactions button.
No problem.
Yeah, so I know there's been there was discussion at the last full CAB meeting about this. Crawford even spoke about this, prior to us starting this meeting, that we'll, be going to the CCP, with the request tomorrow. So this is, we're just getting our eyes on the recommendation that went forward, that's going forward to CCP, correct? And okay, and then we also
Yes.
have additional verbal comments that we'll be planning to deliver with Crawford's assistance.
That is correct.
Okay.
So
Thank you
this,
so
go
much.
ahead. Yeah, so
I just
this
wanted
is,
to make sure I was tracking. Yeah.
yes, ma'am. And I appreciate you for asking. So as a committee, we're just reviewing the draft of what will be presented tomorrow, like you stated. And then I know that Monique sent out the agenda information. I believe it was today, Monique, or was it yesterday, for the CCP meeting. And I know that Crawford's been great with collaborating with us to come up with items to talk about. But the goal is to look at this and then be prepared tomorrow with not tomorrow, but be prepared with Crawford for Friday to listen to the recommendations are what's being made, and then figure out where our recommendations can fit in once we kind of see what the budget looks like, or what the agencies that are receiving funding, what they're requesting for their budget. So based on our recommendations, is there anything that we may want to change or advocate for or recommend on Friday?
Got it. And then, so we, have written up, I noticed, I think I've seen a couple emails from Crawford. Are we planning to give them our additional recommendations in writing at some point, or has this been decided that it'll all be verbal? And it's okay if nobody on this call knows that. I'm sure I'll figure out in the meeting tomorrow.
I'm not sure, but Monica, is it okay if Crawford can ask you, are we going to give that to them in writing, or is that just what we're going to hopefully be able to discuss verbally?
I would say by all means, let's follow up our verbal information on Friday, and I'd be more than pleased because I've already got the script written, so that'll take 2
Right.
minutes. So any alterations you want to make, you guys make them, and by George, it's done.
Perfect. So we'll be following that up with emailing them the
Yes.
language after we present verbally. That sounds perfect. Thank you, Crawford.
Awesome, great question. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. So Crawford, you're going to share the script at the meeting after this meeting?
Yes, yes, to answer your question.
Thank you.
Good questions. Okay, so moving along, this section, of course, breaks down the funding for, you went faster than my eyes.
Sorry.
We allocated for the community programs, which I know that we spoke about in more detail. So this is what will be presented tomorrow. Any questions on this section? No. Okay, and I see, hi Patrice, I see Patrice joined. So before we move on to the next item, is there any other questions or feedbacks on what's going to be presented on Friday to CCP? Or Patrice, I tried to cover this section the best way possible. If there's anything that you want to add in this section, you'd be more than welcome to as well. But we review the documents that's going to be presented to CCP on Friday.
No, hi everybody. Sorry, I'm in transit, but so I just pulled over to see if you guys are looking at the document. I don't have anything more to add on this piece. I know that you all also still would like to encourage CCP to consider funding other areas that may not necessarily be included in this budget request or this budget proposal. And so I had an opportunity to speak with Crawford about that as he was preparing comments. So I just wanted to make note that I have at least shared with Chief that you guys are likely to, share some of those recommendations during the CCP meeting tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? Yes, tomorrow.
No, it's Friday, right?
I'm sorry. Friday.
It's Friday.
I was all getting nervous, like, wait a minute, what happened to? We missed the day.
Yeah. So so that's all to add. Nothing further from that. And then I don't know if there's anything, if Crawford wanted to share anything in terms of the comments that you all are preparing.
Can't hear you, Crawford. You're on mute.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to just stay on mute and listen here. We were gonna, Patrice, after our conversation yesterday, which by the way, I'm so grateful that we had a chance to talk. We've got now basically a script laid out, and there's the sections for each person if they would like to participate. And we followed the guidelines that you gave us yesterday. And I have that, but we were going to have just a meeting with Nicole, myself, and Lila, since we would be participating. I've also put a call in to Terry Dunn, but if you'd like me to put that on the screen sometime, maybe at the end of your regular meeting, I'm prepared to do that if you want to use screen share. So however you would like to do it, I'll follow your lead. How's that, Nicole and Lila?
So is that something that I can add? Monique's is not on my agenda. I would love that as we go through here, if he has it available. Or do we
So-
have to do that off?
Yeah, because that's not, it wasn't necessarily a part of the agenda packet.
Okay,
But I don't know if maybe if you wanted to spend time to talk about it now, I guess, Crawford, if you wanted to give sort of an overview, a general overview or summary of the comments, I think that would suffice.
Okay, here, let me call it up here on my screen. Oh, one other thing. Would it be more appropriate to do this after the meeting? Because I don't really want to interfere with your meeting, or do you consider this part of your meeting, Nicole?
consider it part of this section, since we're actually going to be doing this on Friday. I would love to.
Okay,
And I'd like to add to that too, if I could.
Oh, yes, please.
So as I'm thinking about it, if Terry were to join the meeting with you all, there would present a quorum for Lila and Terry for programs and services. Would that be a problem, Patrice? If they were to meet outside of this
So I'm
meeting?
sorry. So who all are meeting?
So it was going to be Crawford, Nicole, Lila, and then Terry. Or wait, no, Terry wasn't going to be a part of it. You were going to circle back to Terry individually, right, Crawford?
yes, now I have a call. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
But if they were to present at CCP, the four of them, Lila and Terry would be a quorum for programs and services. And I'm not sure if that affects the Brown Act, or
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
would.
sure.
So typically, it would be, at least for the sake of making public comments, at tomorrow, at Friday. God, I must really want CCP to happen tomorrow. At the CCP meeting on Friday, it's best to just limit it to, technically you can go up to 3 CAB members can make comments, but really, I would say just to keep it on the safe zone, if you will, 1 or 2 individuals, but you can do up to 3. So for example, at the last CCP meeting, I want to say it was maybe a total of 6. We almost hit full majority of CAB, but we didn't. And then there were times where folks dropped off and then came back on. So even in that scenario, only 3 were allowed to essentially give comment on behalf of CAB. And I think we maintained that. So there wasn't any issue there.
We can work around that. So basically then it would be myself, Nicole, and Lila. How's that? And
Sounds
that'll
good.
simplify it.
Okay.
And that works fine. I am also aware that, you know, my time is limited on CAB. And so if it makes more sense, you know, for Terry to engage, if, you know, he'll be continuing, I'm flexible on that too.
Actually, Terry will not be continuing next year.
Got it. All right. I'll plan and prepare then. And it sounds like maybe Crawford will just say, let Terry know that there would be a quorum issue.
Yes, I will do that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, do you want me to go over this document now, or?
I would say if let's go over it now, since we're already discussing what's going to happen on Friday. Patrice, you got me about to say Thursday, Friday, and then we can jump into the annual report and the rest of the agenda items.
Okay, I have my script. Now, we don't want to do screen share because that would, could we do screen share, or does that violate our protocol here?
I think I heard Patrice say it would violate the protocol, but sorry, there you are,
Okay.
Patrice.
Yeah, if
Okay.
you're sharing screen for of a document that wasn't posted in the agenda or was not previously posted, then yeah, that would
Okay, no problem.
So knowing that,
I'll go,
perhaps,
okay, I'll go through it. Basically, here's what I've done. And here's kind of what the temporary plan was. This was the plan prior to talking to you, Nicole, and to you, Lila. I'm going to have some introductory comments here about we appreciate the opportunity to comment on AB 109 funds. And then I'm going to mention here 3 of the 4 areas we selected are in lockstep with the programs and services survey. And then we'll also talk about CAB's policy and budget recommendations. And then we will, I'll state as a reminder, I'll give all 6 of the recommendations, just, like housing, mental health, employment, etc. I'll try to give 1-liners or 2 or 3-liners where appropriate. And then at the very end, we've added, according to the information that was sent, pre-release programming. I will then highlight pre-release program, and I've got 1 or 2 bullets on pre-release programming or little mini paragraphs. After that, then as CCP moves down their agenda, Patrice was kind enough to give me specific page numbers. And those pages are in the CCP agenda, page 38, 47, and 64. Each of those page numbers has one of our particular items of the 3 that we wanted to focus on. And what I was going to do is go over that script for each of those items. You can add or delete from that. And I've got it set up for when we get to page 38, when I guess the gentleman, what's his name, Paul, is it Reyes? When he goes through and they get to page 38 on mental health, then we would step in with some comments. And this is summarizing what you gave me, Patrice. We would like for that particular agency to take a leadership role and look at their funding request with an eye on additional funding from the excess funds to be in lockstep with our programs and services AB 109 survey recommendations. And we'll do that for 3 areas. There's mental health on page 38. On page 47, there's housing. And that's where these H3 comments come in. And I was thinking, Nicole, you would probably be best to cover that area. And then that's it. So we've got housing, we've got employment, and we've got mental health.
So quick
So-
question for you. What page is the employment one on? Because you have the page numbers written down.
Yeah, just a minute. Where did I have, page 64. And I'll send all of this to you so you can really see how it flows.
Okay.
This may not be flowing very well with me.
Is it the same one? Is it different than what we already looked at?
Yeah, what did I, it's basically the same information, but when they're talking about employment, it would be the Workforce Development Board of Contra Costa County. We would ask them to consider additional funding. And
Okay.
that sentence that I gave you, or statement, we would like you to take a leadership role to look at their funding requests, which were kind of level. And as we are asking them to put an eye for additional funding. Again, we want to raise the temperature just a little bit and cause them to think, hey, maybe we can do this. That's all.
So I appreciate the recap. I would probably say just listening to you, because it's different than what, not different, but I would like to see what you're looking at. And I know I can't see it right now. So
Yeah.
I think that I mean, I appreciate the summary, but if we do have a few minutes afterwards, I would love to see exactly what you're looking at so I can be prepared for
Yes.
Friday?
Well, may I suggest what we'll do is go back and grab our old comments on employment and
Okay.
put them as basically, when they get to page 54, they're talking about it, then you'll step in or somebody will and
Right.
say, these are the points we would like to reiterate. And
Okay.
please take a second look, and then we'll
Okay.
keep on moving. Yes. Is there anything else, or Patrice, can you give us further guidance here, or Monique?
No, I don't have any further guidance, but I will add just as more context is if you haven't done so already, I really would encourage you all to look at the CCP agenda for Friday. So item 6 is really the primary agenda item for the budget workshop. And it is all of the budget requests from all of the funded agencies, county, as well as for the community programs, which is the one you're seeing on the screen. All of those requests are going to be, for lack of better words, discussed to some degree. That's a really great opportunity to then review of the agencies that have sort of responsibility or jurisdiction over the areas of interest that you have. So for example, housing, you can look at H3's budget proposal. You'll see that they're only requesting basically a status quo budget. Same for Workforce Development Board, which does a lot of the employment work in the county. They're requesting a status quo budget for next year. And then behavioral health, they're asking for a modest increase to cover the cost of a part-time drug counselor. So I think Lila mentioned this in a previous, I can't remember which meeting it was, Lila, forgive me, but you made mention of the importance of taking advantage of the fact that there's not only just an excess in the reserves, but then also potentially increases in the annual revenue, the base allocation. And so given that fact, none of the agencies that you guys would like to see expand their services requested any increases. So that's really a good opportunity to say this is where CAB's recommendations would be best accounted for, right? And you really want to encourage that agency to look at requesting additional dollars to sustain expansion of services. And depending on what specific, because Crawford and I also didn't get into the weeds necessarily of the specific comments, because I know some of them were quite detailed. So if within your original comments, if you all had some specific program models or ideas, like at one point we did talk about maybe a justice focused core team that would come out of H3. So if you have some specific details like that, again, that would be a good time when the respective agency has to present their budget proposal. That would be a good time to offer public comment on what kind of program or service ideas you would like to see them look into and to utilize the increases in these AB 109 revenues to cover the cost of that.
Thank you. So this, thank you, Patrice. This goes back to my email yesterday. What I think it's going to take longer than 15 minutes, Crawford, for us to meet now that I was waiting for this to go out, and Patrice sent out the stuff for CCP for us to all take a look and kind of come together so that when we do have that call, we're in line with each other based on what Patrice just went over for those organizations and what they're asking for. Where would our recommendations fit in so that we can do make sure we state that on the CCP call? Or do we just want to still just go ahead, Lila?
Oh, go ahead, finish your question.
So I was going to just ask, do we want to go? I'm thinking either doing it after this call or meeting tomorrow, but it may take a little bit longer than 15 minutes because we'll need to review this along with what was written out, Crawford.
That's your call. However you would like to do it, I'll make myself available.
Lila, how's your time?
so I have a little bit of time at the end of this meeting. I don't know how long it's going to take. I can imagine 15 minutes to 30 minutes, and I could definitely do that.
Okay.
I think what I'm wondering is, if we don't go into the weeds and we don't, share out these kind of more detailed ideas that have come up, how will we share those with the CCP? Because I do think it's helpful that they don't, necessarily get lost. And so that's one of the things I was curious about, is if the written document that we would forward afterward would include those more detailed ideas. Because I do remember, Patrice, you saying that in this process that they want to lift up CAB's voice. And so, there were a number of interesting ideas that were brainstormed. And I just want to make sure that that doesn't get lost, and somehow we do share that information with the CCP. Even if we don't have time, or it doesn't make sense to, verbally go over that in our presentation on Friday.
I mean, I agree. One of the things that I was thinking about was our last call, and we really didn't get to go into too much detail when we had talking points. So if that occurred, we Crawford, you did say we were going to email it afterwards, or be able to send it afterwards.
That is correct. We can write up more detail after the meeting with CCP on Friday. And maybe that's where we really get into the weeds on certain
Okay.
specifics.
Okay.
If you would like. And
I mean,
again,
I'm open for that. I just want to make sure that we're all prepared on how we're going to do this on Friday. If possible, even if it takes 15 to 30 minutes, if we just go ahead and finish with this, and then we could probably meet really quickly just to kind of get, prepared. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page on how this is going to go on Friday. In any event that we don't get to go into detail about
yeah.
what is going to be our goal afterwards, because I would love to be able to make sure that they do get this, information from CAB and the recommendations that we have. They're really important. So I do want to have that discussion, but I also want to get through this agenda too. So
Yeah,
we can
and
do
again,
that.
if I could jump in real quick,
Yeah, go ahead.
I would encourage you utilize your public comment opportunity during the CCP meeting if you want to share specifically what you would like to see funded by each of these agencies. So be sure to do, because what will happen after this CCP meeting, all the agencies will go back after they've heard feedback from CCP members or members of the public, right? They will go back, and if they need to make changes to their budget requests, they will do so, communicate that with the CAO's office, and then it will be included in the December CCP packet for a final vote. So that's why this November meeting is always really important to lift up what you would like to see funded.
Okay.
Whether or not they go with it, that's on them to decide, but at least you would have put it in public record that that's what you would like to see happen.
Yeah. Any other feedback, Crawford, Lila, before we move on? Are we okay with staying after a couple of minutes?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, and I'll share. I mean, I would be excited to be a public comment person, if I'm not needed, in the general presentation that's connected to the agenda, I think. Or sorry, are all the comments that we're making on Friday public comments, or do we have time on the agenda, or we're just jumping in with public comments?
It'll be the public comment section, because there'll be board CCP member comments. Then when they open it up to the public, as Patrice had mentioned, then we would chime in on the specific pages, and you'll see that on your script when they get to such and such a page or subject area, then it's time to chime in on public comment.
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'd be happy to do a public comment to lift up some of the specifics.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
to clarify though, can you guys hear me? Okay, just to clarify, the the CCP meeting will run just as like your general cab meeting, right? There's going to be a public comment period that's for any agenda item any item that's not on the agenda, right? And then there's public comment that will be open on each of the agenda items. So you guys can decide how you want to do it. But just know that you don't have to use the public comment period, like before or after the vote for the record of action. You can wait till the actual agenda item and discuss it then. But I'll leave it to you guys to strategize how you want to utilize the flow of the meeting and the agenda for where you want to lift up your comments.
And I just posted in the chat the actual agenda points so that you can see what's listed. There will not be discussion on, there won't be public comments on each individual budget presented, but an actual public comment on the entire budget once it's been presented by all the departments.
Okay. So they'll let everybody review the budget and then at the end, just open it up for any comments. Okay.
Well, there's 2 points in the agenda that deal with the budget. One of them is accepting the report on the fourth quarter financial status and on number 5 on the agenda. So that's an opportunity to add public comments. And then there's the workshop, which is the actual presentation of the budgets by departments, or an overview of that. And so that's an additional chance to have comments on budget and money specific items.
Our first comment, thank you, Jill, was going to be in section 5 or item 5 on the agenda. Well, I'll kind of introduce it. And then in the workshop, item 6, that's when we have the specific page numbers where we have specifics on our recommendations to comment on. So
yeah, and certainly if there's anything that's not sort of attributable to either one of those items that have to do with something that you all are working on, that could be certainly shared under public comment number 2 on items not on the agenda. So it's just something to think about strategically if somebody wanted to mention something about like the survey that you all did and the results and what the overseeing that sort of leads into the discussion of where you all have determined funding should go, if you're following what I'm saying.
Paula, did you have a question?
I did, but then I lowered my hand. My question was touched by something that was mentioned here, and I think it's the workshop where folks are discussing proposals. The ORJ is not inviting all of the organizations that we support on this budget to come for this this meeting and presentation, correct? I just wanted to understand the process. I hope that question made sense.
You're asking if we invited all of the providers to the CCP meeting?
Yes, and I don't think so, but I just want to make sure I haven't missed something, and that basically we're presenting this budget as it is, and so there'll be presentations from other departments, but the entities and organizations within this budget are not expected to come in order to speak to the budget we're presenting.
I will say at our last AB 109 Partners and Providers meeting, we did highlight that there was going to be a budget workshop for the CCP in November. So that meeting took place in October, as well as notifying them of the November CAB meeting. So there was not, no, I will say in short, there was not a recent email invitation to those providers to attend the CCP meetings. But they were at least, the information about it was shared at the last AB 109 Partners and Providers meeting.
Got it. Thank you. So it's always open, but not something that we do as a practice, is inviting all of the folks that are represented within that budget to be present at that meeting. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Subcommittee? Patrice, it looks like we lost Ozzy. No, wait, do we still have her? Okay, there she go. I didn't see you down there, Ozzy. Okay, awesome.
I'm still here.
Yeah, I had to click on the arrow. We've been talking so much. I'm like, where is Ozzy? So before we move on the agenda, and just to make sure we're okay with kind of staying a little bit after, just to kind of catch up on what's going to take place on Friday. So Monique, we can go ahead and move forward. So next item on the agenda is to go over the advisory body annual report. So, and I'll probably this is my first time doing one of these, so I understand that it's just giving you some pointers to put on here
That is correct.
for each section.
Each section, I think there's one section there. Okay, first one, activities, accomplishments. Could you scroll down a little bit there? Oh, stop right. Attendance, representation. You can maybe briefly talk about that, and even training and certification. Everybody's had their training, so that really wouldn't be one for your committee. And then suggestions for next year. And that does it. And really bullets now. We don't need a dissertation, just bullets. And then this gives Patrice and Monique guidance, and I'll be working with them to get the final report to CCP.
Okay, so
And
okay.
Nicole, we keep record of attendance, so you don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
As well as the training and certification, we keep record of that, so you don't have to worry about those sections. Unless you do want to uplift some of the presentations that that policy and budget may have received, if you felt like that was in some ways of a training, you can let me know. Otherwise, that's not an area you necessarily need to focus in on. Just the accomplishments, what you may plan for next year, and I'm forgetting the other area.
Well, so let me ask you this in reference to activities. I was thinking of some of the presentations that we had throughout the year in the subcommittee. That would I thought that would that go under activities, or that would go under like a training?
You're right. That may be, it may fit better with activities than anything else, because you're gathering information to help support or build either your recommendations or budget proposals. So yeah.
So Ozzy and Lila will have discussion on some key pointers or activities that we see for the year. I mean, one thing that stuck out to me was just our main focus on those three areas that we talked about, which is the employment and the housing and the mental health aspect of it. We really dug deep, I feel like we did this year, in reference to having presenters come in and talk about those sections. another pointer in reference to employment, and I forgot what we called it, Crabber, forgive me, what we worked on with Dale in reference to really looking into individuals that have that background coming to CAB to provide information on any barriers that they had with employment.
Why don't you just use that term, lived experiences?
Okay.
Remember?
There you
Yeah,
go, lived experiences.
there you go.
I'm
And
trying to
again,
I'm giving you a lot of data so you can take that like you always do and make great bullets.
bullets, again, bullets. We don't,
Bullet points.
and now,
I usually just talk and then you break it down into great bullets.
well, now here's another way that could assist you and Ozzy, if you want to take and Lila, is go through, and you can go to the agenda center, I believe,
Okay,
get your agendas from your past meetings, and that's what I did last year when I did the OCEC. I didn't know what to do, and I was stunned for a moment and startled. And then I said, oh, wait a minute, let me go to our past agendas. So just pull up your past meeting agendas. You can go right from that, and it'll go, it'll tell you what you did, what you accomplished. There may be repeats, so you move on from those, and it's all there. And I think if you go over your past agendas, it may take you 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And if you got 2 of you or 3 of you doing it, it'll be bam, 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 and you're done.
so let me ask you this, because I think that is a great idea. And I was going to ask if that possible, but I wasn't sure if you needed this right now while we're
No.
on this call. Okay,
No,
awesome. Well, I could do that because I was prepared to give you the answer right now or try to.
No.
Go ahead, Lila.
Okay, now remember, this is to assist that year-end report. And that year-end report, they were scrambling last year. And Patrice, I think you may want to comment, they weren't getting stuff when they needed it, and they had to scramble. And what we're trying to do is just smooth out the process. If each committee does it, and then we can tie it all together in a nice package.
So when is this due?
How soon can you reasonably get it done?
Well, I'm trying to figure out, is this something that we want to have on our next call in December where we all go back and have to look at the agendas, or is this something that is going to be an item on our next agenda for us to have Monique bring back all the items? I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, no, what I would suggest is just get it done prior to your next meeting and just send it to Monique. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Feedback, Lila, I'm sorry, I know your hand was up. I apologize. Go
No
ahead.
worries. So a couple thoughts come to my mind that could go somewhere within the year-end report. One of them is that this year we had me, who was in both programs and services and policy and budget subcommittees. So I think it was helpful sometimes because I know the year before in programs and services, we would have to kind of make sure that somebody went to the meeting to share things. And so I think that that's something to consider if, maybe if they're, because these two subcommittees work so closely together and, hand in hand, that could be something to consider is if there's a member who's on both committees. Even as I say that, I did get confused because it was like, okay, which subcommittee did I see that in? And Crawford, I can't imagine how it is for you. I hear you say again and again, like, I'm just listening, and it's probably because you're like, let's keep this in this container because I am over the whole cab. So that's one thing we can put in the report. I think another thing that could go in this subcommittee report and maybe even CABS overall is that this year we did have growth and expansion in the other outside committees and meetings that we attended. I want to lift up Ozzy, for going to the racial justice oversight body meetings and the data subcommittee meetings. And so I feel like from the subcommittee and CAB, we did try to branch out and learn more about other spaces and places that were impacting us, like the Measure X meetings. You know, we were asked a couple times to go to that. Folks started going to, you know, homelessness services meetings. So those, you know, are the things that I would list up. I also see, you know, at the end of the work plan, and I'm just using it to think about the report right now, that there were a few items there that we didn't quite, you know, get to the details. You know, maybe that's a recommendation for the next year, like develop a holistic mental health strategy. We definitely had conversations about including more training, you know, for trauma-informed care, you know, coming also from Aussie and intersecting with a couple of the subcommittees. But those are the things that stand out to me for the report for this subcommittee.
Thank you. Monique?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment similar to what Lila said, how you all sometimes do intersect with each other in the different subcommittees, because I remember Ozzy presenting at the Programs and Services regarding the work she was researching on implicit bias. And then I remember, I think it was last year that Dr. Cole, I'm sorry, not Dr. Cole, Mark Thomas did the presentation on restorative justice. But I think that was for last year, but you often all do intersect with one another and collaborate and bring ideas for the entire CAP. So that, I think that's an excellent idea to highlight those areas.
Sorry, I'm still on mute. Ozzy, do you have anything?
Well, I think that Monique kind of included some things that I hadn't thought about, that I had been involved in. I don't think I think everything has pretty much been covered primarily from the Policy and Budget Subcommittee, but I'm sure that there is something else, but it's not on my radar at this particular time. But I want to thank Lila and Monique for jarring our memory.
And
So do
can
we-
I
I'm sorry,
add
go
one
ahead.
more thing, Nicole?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Keep in mind that you could always email Nicole with anything you might think up later. So Nicole, you would email Nicole, Nicole would email it to Crawford, and I guess Crawford would email it to us at or J, or maybe email it to us and copy Crawford. I'm not really sure what that process is, but you have time to email the information.
So that's and thank you, Monique, for that. I was going to ask, especially Lila, I loved everything that you said, and I do want to get this jotted down along with the items that I mentioned as well. And Ozzy, if you think of more items to add after we walk away and go back and look at agendas, because I'm definitely going to go back and look at agendas as well to jog my memory. If it can be emailed to me or whatever that process is, so that we can make sure we have it by our next call. And would that be okay to come to me, or how does that work, Monique?
Don't we have Brown Act issues if they're emailing you something?
I thought
Well,
so. Go ahead.
Well, they would, one person at a time would email it to me and probably copy you on it. That's what I was thinking. So it wouldn't affect the Brown Act if one person is individually emailing it to me. It's just if you're emailing the entire group, because you know, like when I send out the agenda, I blind copy everyone. So yeah, so like Nicole would send me something, and I mean, I would recommend copying you on it, Crawford, and then the same, Lila or Ozzy would email me and maybe copy you. So it wouldn't be affect the Brown Act if they were doing it individually.
They're going to email you and copy Crawford, or we're all going to email you and Crawford. Okay.
So I have a question. I think Crawford kind of alluded to going back through the agendas to retrieve possibly presentations that would that go into the activities? And if that is so, I'd like to, while it's still in my memory, you know, I'm the senior person on this call, I'd like to make sure we mention in our presentation done by Janet Eyre. I also like to include the workforce development that was presentation by Mr. Brown, I believe. That was part of some informative information that I would like to see.
I'm not so sure you need to put the actual presentation there, just list the presentation and, you know, the title of it and move on. Again, just bullets. So if we need further information, you could put in parentheses, see agenda or something of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah. But those are good thoughts, Ozzy.
Okay. Awesome.
Oh, wait a minute, before you go on, Patrice and Monique, is this meeting your, you know, what you need with these bullets of putting these together? Are we in sync with you two? I think that's so important.
Yes, you are.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you. Oh, here's Terry Dunn. I'm gonna have to excuse myself a second.
Okay. Okay, so we're I know it's one of our agenda items to talk about our meeting next month, but Lila and Ozzy, we're on agreement that we're clear on our next step to email Monique and copy Crawford on items that we discussed today that go on the annual report. All right. So any question or comments before we move on to the work plan? Nope. So I know it's been a while since we looked at it, so I wanted to make sure that we kind of look at where we are at. I know Dr. Cole couldn't make it today. Here. So we'll just kind of go through this to see where we are. We can add this back to our next agenda as well, so I can get an update from Dr. Cole. And so I'll check in with both Lila and you, Ozzy, as well for your sections on here to see how things are going, because I know that we haven't had a chance to really look at this as we're really focused on the budget and things of that nature. So Lila, I will start with you. If there are any updates for your section here.
Got it. And I am finding myself, you know, wondering if we're meeting next month, because this could potentially be our last meeting. And so this might be my final time to talk about this. And so I think that I, you know, kind of gave my comment a little bit early. I'm just trying to make this bigger so I can see it a little bit better. We did collaborate with Programs and Services Subcommittee, and you know, quite a bit. And then the part about identifying new services and establishing an equity focus on specific populations. I don't know how deep this subcommittee was able to pick up the equity focus. I mean, we talked about equity focus a lot, but it seemed like we came across a lot of barriers and limitations when it came to getting data in order to, you know, see what's happening with folks of different groups. And so I know that next year, and the years moving forward, that there'll be more work around data, and I think that there's more monies coming out and more programming coming out, and I know that the ORJ has been working really hard to get you know, evidence-based programs set up and to have a system of capturing data. So it kind of felt to me like each place that we went, you know, was like, oh, we can't have that data right now. You know, even if it was asking Charles Brown, you know, from the workforce development, if, you know, they had information. Bye, Patrice, take care. If they had information, you know, about folks who are in reentry, about their job seekers in the state data collection board, you know, where they have labor market information. And so there was really no information on folks, you know, with connection to the criminal justice system there. That's a kind of an aside. But yeah, I saw collaboration, and you know, we certainly utilized the survey results, and you know, picked up and reviewed the themes from you know, from that survey quite a bit, and they had also been topics that were lifted up in this group early on in the year to focus on as well. Yeah, so hopefully that makes yeah, sounds like it provides an answer to your question, Nicole. You know, the gender justice issue, I think I would say kind of the same. We did have, I heard that in our space a little bit more. You know, I know Center Forest has gender specific services, and they mentioned that, but I don't know. Yeah, I think that there's more to come around data.
Yes, thank you. Monique, you had your hand up. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I do have my hand up. Lila, keep in mind, I remember you recommending victim-centered approach in the recommendation. So I think that might be aligned with that item as well, in my opinion.
Thank you. That's helpful. Yeah, and I did make a comment. I think that for me, it's important that victim-centered, you know, means victims of all, you know, racial backgrounds, and not just folks with economic power or, you know, folks with other types of systemic power. So thank you, Monique.
Any other comment? Thank you, Lottie. You keep reminding me that this is it. I've been with you for 2 years, and I keep hearing you say it, but it hasn't really stuck yet. So
I've been talking it up the last couple of months. I can't quite believe it either.
No, I'm not going to. It's not going to be the same. So I have to get mentally prepared for this. As you just reminded me that this could be the last one. So yeah. Thank you for your update. I really appreciate that feedback. And I know that we have an agenda item for the report out on our, let me go back to the top. I was just trying to see what was on here. Okay. Okay. And then Ozzy, do you have anything? I know, I believe we have, I was trying to put back up the agenda. Some comment updates.
Well,
No, we have, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I don't have any updates specifically for RJOB. The last meeting that I attended, they did elect a new chairperson.
Okay.
And I think Patrice would probably be better to answer the questions, because it's still kind of running around in my mind that, let's see, how do I say this? My question is whether or not the racial justice oversight body will be the organization or the agency that will be collecting the data specifically for the racial equity. Am I speaking the truth?
That is a Patrice question because I just read hormone.
Because
Well,
what I'm-
they have
what
a
I'm
data,
trying-
they have a data subcommittee. So if it's related to data, that would be the department, the subcommittee, I'm sorry, that would collect the data. Now, they often work in partnership with us and other agencies, so yes. But Ozzy, I want to mention that for the sake of the work plan, I'm not sure if this is, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't seem like this is per se the update. It seems like you would be saying that, yes, you have been attending meetings as they have occurred, right? You've been attending the meetings. I know several were canceled. So
Right.
that's kind of your role, is that you're representative for that as a CAB member for that particular body. And you have been doing that. And then it's been canceled several times, right? So I think
Absolutely.
that's mainly it. I think you would do the report out at the CAB meetings as the meetings have occurred.
Okay, very good, because they have canceled the meetings, and I don't know where they're going with that.
Yeah,
Thank you, Monique.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Monique. Rescue me.
Scroll down some. So looking at the remainder of our work plan in reference to developing the 2022-2023 policy and budget recommendations, and we can kind of go through that. We reviewed updates. Well, you know, we've been working on this. So community needs as highlighted in programs and services subcommittee survey results and align with AB 109 funding for community programs. And the outcome was to develop a budget based on a community-based organization needs and community input. I believe we've done that. Our timeline was July through October. We did meet that. We're a little bit after we met it, but we did achieve that by developing a budget to present to CCP. And let's see. Any feedback on that, or are we just going to go through and just, Monique, I'm okay with just giving updates? Because when it comes to the goal number 2, I believe that we achieved those goals. We reviewed the quarterly financial reports presented by CCP to ensure the funds are being expended as intended.
Yeah, I think that what you guys have been doing now in preparation for the upcoming CCP special meeting, that correlates with that, in my opinion. Lila does have her hand up. She might want to.
Go ahead, Lila.
Yeah, I think one area that stands out here that I still have questions about is the ongoing monitoring of the use of AB 109 funding.
Right,
I
that,
think
yes.
we've done that quite a bit. Like, we did lean in and, you know, I feel like in some ways maybe our language has gotten more like, this is part of what CAB needs to do, is to ensure that these programs are working for folks. I guess I still just wonder like how to do that. And we get the reports from ORJ on different, you know, from CBOs and from county departments. But I guess if this were going to be something that we're going to move forward to next year, I would just wonder if we want to specify the expected outcome to be more clear with what we're looking to see. Because we did do some monitoring, but like how and what do we, yeah, what are we looking for there? So it's more of a question, yeah, about that if it continues to move forward.
I appreciate that comment. I also agree with you as one of the pointers I made. I think it was at either the full CAB or our last meeting, but I agree with you that we have been looking at it. It is a little bit confusing on what you know, we're supposed to do with it, but I think we should define that more because we are constantly talking about what CAP should be doing, and we're looking at it, but what are we looking for? What is our goal? So I do definitely agree with that comment that you've made for this section. So in reference to work to date, we can clearly say that we have been ongoing monitoring that, but let's make a note that when we look at our work plan next year, it's that we should break it down. I would like to see us have a goal on what we're trying to achieve for the year. It's just ongoing, and we're constantly looking at and monitoring the funding.
I'd like to piggyback off of that and ask a question. I was at a board of supervisors meeting and happened to hear something about performance-based monitoring. And I was wondering if that could be something that at some point we take a look at. How would we're monitoring, but how would we gauge performance and successes with the community-based organizations? And I guess that's a part of data keeping.
So I'm gonna ask her a question. What a question and answer in a sense. So Monique, that's a Denise question, right?
Well,
it has to do with the evidence-based practice that they're requiring for all the CBOs to follow. So and correct me if I'm wrong, we could definitely go to Denise, but I believe it's the data that they're going to be collected from the CBOs. I'm not sure what they're looking at to monitor. So that'll be, maybe we can ask Denise to elaborate on that. But being a previous CBO, I know it was supposed to be based on evidence-based practice. So they had, depending on what type of programs you were provided, you had a certain structure you had to follow. So there were key marks, for example, housing. Following an evidence-based practice for housing, there were key things that we had, benchmarks we had to meet. And based on reporting, they'll be able to tell if we're meeting those benchmarks based on that type of evidence-based practice that we're following for houses. Does that make sense? I hope I'm saying it right. Denise could probably explain more, but I know it has to do with your type of program that you're in.
And I wouldn't say it's a Denise question, it's
Okay.
an ORJ question.
ORJ, but Denise is my data girl.
You did a great job, Nicole, because you actually went through the training. And so I would say evidence-based practice is based on research. So this year, not all of our CBOs went through evidence-based practice, but housing, employment, and family reunification and legal aid did. So we're preparing for all of our CBOs to become evidence-based practitioners or, programs. And so keep in mind that you guys are an advisory body to another advisory body, right? So you're like a gatekeeper at this level for the community advisory body. And then you report to the CCP to advocate for what you desire. And then they in turn report to the PPC, and then ultimately it goes to the Board of Supervisors. And I don't think it's that case in every scenario, but generally that's what's happening. So I think it would behoove you all to learn about evidence-based practices or programs, and then that would be the lens that you're looking at of how the CBOs are operating, right? So I would say probably going through the training, which we have the PowerPoints on file. We could provide all of the CAB members with that. That could even be something you might want to discuss at the retreat. That could be a component of the retreat that you want to talk about, because I'm sure other CAB members are thinking the same way. Even with the budget process, when you talk about not understanding, even though you're making suggestions, but you're not sure if it's being implemented. Okay, so that could be something, that process could go, you could go a little bit more in depth at the retreat. So for new CAB members that are coming on board, so that they can fully understand the process. So that's what I would recommend. But I could definitely provide some of the PowerPoints for you, and I would suggest that it be on an agenda so that you can understand what the evidence-based projects are, programs.
Thank you, Monique.
looking at this. The last part I would say is something that we can continue for the next year. I was looking at bullet number 2, propose bringing together CBOs and county agencies to identify culture appropriate and accessible mental health resources. I believe we started that. But just thinking about our previous conversations, there's more research that needs to go into what type of services that needs to that is needed for mental health. So work up to date, we have touched on these items and they're ongoing. I will continue to work on those. We did look at increasing funding for mental health and considering the implications of CalAIM. I know we had a presentation this year for CalAIM. When it comes to mental health, I still feel like it's an open item. I know we've talked about it, we looked into it, we had a presentation. Understanding the budget a lot more now. I'm kind of seeing, the structure of it and who's getting funding for it, and we're making our recommendations. So I do see that this being part of our work plan again next year as well. And the same with the one on top, really getting an idea of what our goals are for the next year. Budget and recommendation. What do you think? Any feedback? Keep trying to scroll on your agenda, Monique.
And Nicole, I just want to do a time check real quick. So you have 7 minutes
Okay.
according to the agenda.
And I'm complete on this agenda item. I'll share by email, just reiterating a few of the things I shared. Thank you.
Okay. For the sake of time, I know on the agenda we had the 2023 CAB retreat planning, but I do want to discuss the scheduling for our December meeting. If we're okay to jump to that since it's already 2:24. And then are we able to table the other ones for, go ahead, Ozzy.
This could be really in left field, but I don't see anything on our work plan relative to disabilities or things that we've been actually talking to in our CAB talking points, specifically disabilities, veterans, and jobs. So I think maybe that's a conversation for another day, but I think those items that I've mentioned, disabilities, services, jobs, working, getting the reentry population jobs. Also, we had talked about veterans and making sure veterans were able to be included in our framework, but definitely championing Dr. Hernandez and the disabilities and what that's going to look like moving forward. So my question is, when do we get to add specific language that becomes specific within our work plan moving forward?
So go ahead, Monique.
So, sorry to interrupt you, Chair, but
It's okay.
So we're at the end of the year, right? So we're going to have a new work plan for next year, which Crawford would like for the meetings to start in January. So I agree, you guys have highlighted some very important topics, and you might want to highlight that at the retreat. And I know many of you all will be planning the retreat. So that could be a section in the retreat where you're highlighting information that you all proposed, but it wasn't spelled out in the work plan. And so you can highlight it. You could even highlight like a legacy section for Dr. Hernandez and Dale, the work that they were champions for. And so that's just an idea, but you wouldn't want to change your work plan at this point because we're at the end of the year. So it would either carry over with new language. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. I just didn't want to forget it. And that I have to constantly remind myself. So even if it's at inopportune moments, we have to keep on doing what we're called to do. Thank you.
No, I thought that was good.
Ozzy, I appreciate you actually bringing up those 2 points. And I got excited because as you stated, as you mentioned that, it brought me back to the section when we were talking about when Lida brought up where it says ongoing monitoring of the use of the AB 109 funding. And I know when I took over this seat, one of the things where in that section is when we kind of broke down all of those key points, but it wasn't broken down that way on here. So we should I appreciate the way you broke it down, and I would love to see that on the work plan or however, or even at the retreat. I don't want to forget them too, so I would like their name everywhere. But so just making sure that those key points are in our work plan, I do think that we need to add, especially in that section, if it falls somewhere, or create another line. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I really do. So thank you. We have to find a section 2, Crawford. I know it's at the end, and it breaks my heart every time I think about him, but especially when we do our recommendations when it comes to Dale, because I did see Dr. Hernandez, and then I think about him, and there's so much hard work that they've done that I don't want it to be forgotten either, on how much they put into this. So go ahead, Lila.
Hi, Nicole. You were asking if some of these items, could be tabled and about our December meeting. I guess I'm just wondering, we have discussed 2023 CAB retreat planning. I don't know if we were going to actually do planning or talk about dates. And then discuss the CAB policy and budget charter. I know that was on the agenda last time. I'm good with the subcommittee charter. I'm not sure if anybody else had comments. So yeah, I guess my question is, do we have any work that we need to complete in December? And if not, I am comfortable with canceling that meeting.
The only work that we have, is getting the annual report back. I have no changes for the charter. I did look at it before this meeting. In reference to and thank you, Lila. In reference to the retreat, I believe, in corporate, correct me if I'm wrong, we were having a discussion if we wanted to have it in January instead of February.
That is correct.
Okay, so it was just to kind of recap what was discussed on the full CAB meeting, on how we feel as a committee. I was in agreement with, I think it'll be a great idea for us to have it in January, and that will require us to meet in December to discuss the retreat. So just bringing to the committee to get you guys feedback. And Lila, I know that you're leaving. So Isaiah, how you ladies feel about that change when it comes to the retreat?
Can I add something?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
So I know, Crawford, you mentioned that you would work with a couple of people in CAB, a few people in CAB, and I don't think that will require you to meet per se. I'm not trying to convince you to meet or not meet, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be within this body. Because I know Crawford was gonna reach out to some of the members.
It's me and I forgot the other young lady's name.
And Lila, it would be you, me, Lila, and I've also reached out to Scott Parsons, so that covers all of the chairs of all of our committees, plus the leadership team.
And
have somebody, go ahead.
Another thing you can do is people can email you with suggestions, and that wouldn't violate quorum. Just, they could just email. Because we've been discussing it in each body.
Yes.
So we discussed it in OCEC. We're discussing it in this subcommittee. We can discuss it Thursday at Programs and Services. And so it doesn't have to be a formal meeting. They can suggest items that they'd like to discuss in the retreat planning and or provide you with suggestions. And then we could work together internally, Crawford, to come up with dates, ORJ and you.
Yes, now.
And then maybe by December 8th, we might have some information.
Yeah, Patrice and I talked about the retreat yesterday.
Okay.
And in fact, I will be getting started on it this weekend.
Okay.
And she's already sent me last year's day 1, day 2.
Mhm.
I'll go over that, recommend some changes or whatever, and then we can start kind of putting something together and just to see what it looks like. And
Okay,
then we'll share that. And Ozzy, you're more than welcome to chime in because, you know, I guess you, me, Nicole, we all came in at the same time. And we've been through these doggone retreats. And I know the first one I was at, my head was running around in circles. I couldn't figure out what was going on. So we're going to try to simplify. I already made some suggestions to Patrice, and she seemed to think, gee, that, you know, maybe that, you know, that would work. So keep your fingers crossed that we can come up with something, but we're going to bounce it off of what we call the pros here and get feedback so we get this right for the new people.
So I'm on, Lila, I see your hand. I'm okay with council in December. I mean, if we all in agreement that we'll email Monique the bullets for the annual report and CC Crawford, and then Crawford, outside of our meeting, we'll talk about the retreat.
Okay, fine.
Lila, go ahead.
That just answered my question that we don't need to meet in December in order to take care of more things on the retreat, whether it's in January or February, if it happens outside of this meeting. So I'm good with that too. Thank you.
And thank you for grabbing all of those things and doing that. I really appreciate it. I'll miss you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, it is 2:33. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And sorry, Ozzy, were you good with the charter for our subcommittee? I know both Nicole and I said it looks good.
I reviewed it and it did look good to me. Yes, it did look good. I just happened to highlight it number E because I had my skin in that game.
Right. Okay. I think we're okay. So we discussed our next step. There's no items for the external committee. So at this point, is there any comments, or we can adjourn to our, so we're agreeing that there will not be a December 15 meeting. Was it December 15? I had on my calendar for a different date. Monique.
yes, December 15th.
I don't know why I had it for the 16th. Okay. So if there's no
Yes,
more
the 15th.
okay.
It's the 15th. That's the third Thursday in December.
So if there's no more comments, then we could adjourn our meeting into January, right?
Actually, Nicole,
Or
you
February,
are
or
right.
when is it? Oh,
Nicole, you are right. It's it would have been the 16th because
Okay.
it's the third Friday. So I have a typo, so I need to fix that. Thank you. But you guys are canceling it, but I will fix it and say it was canceled.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
So since I'm adjourning and I know that we're staying for something else, how do we end it?
So we can go ahead and adjourn. You can go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 2:35.
Okay.
Crawford, would you like me to set up a Zoom call out for you all to discuss the script?
Oh, fine. If you could do that and we can. just
Okay.
get on
So,
right-
so let me
right
go
away.
ahead and end this meeting and then I'll send you all a link to, and I'll be in the background. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys. Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Same to
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.